Hello boys, it's White Pill Media and welcome back to the channel. No, the title and thumbnail are not clickbait. Mostly, I do believe Jacob's Ladder at the end of the day is more of a wholesome and affirming movie rather than a psychological horror. It is definitely a psychological horror. I don't watch a ton of horror movies, but this has a very reassuring ending and such that I think separates it from most films in that genre. This video is for people who have already seen Jacob's Ladder, and if you haven't, should you see it? Yes, I do highly recommend this movie. Very brief summary is that it is a psychological horror. It's about a Vietnam vet played by Tim Robbins who is having these strange and disturbing visions after he's come back to New York after the war. These visions are haunting him and making him question reality, and things keep getting worse as he's searching for the truth and why he's having these visions. So that is the main thrust of this video, and at the very end, I've been watching a lot of movies lately. I will briefly discuss some films I thought were not very good, and I did not want to make videos on them because I didn't feel like they deserved it. So I will briefly summarize those at the very end. There is one mixed in there that I did enjoy, but I didn't think a full video on its own would quite be justified. So I'll just be now analyzing the movie. I've never played the Silent Hill games. Apparently they get quite a lot of inspiration from this movie. So I have them on a list. I want to play like the original ones, but I will get around to that eventually. Also, how is the title not clickbait? How can you possibly think that this is wholesome? By the end of the film, heaven is real, angels are real, Jacob is going to heaven. All of his suffering, all the torment that he's been through is okay because he's going to paradise. His dead son is waiting to bring him into heaven. How is that not wholesome? How is that not like, oh, wow, that's pretty great? And while some horrible and disturbing things happen in the movie, just the reality that paradise exists and you're going to it, it makes it a little, well, trivial in some ways. That's my big takeaway, that this is pretty wholesome, that all of his suffering leads him to, going to heaven. And I've seen Jacob's Ladder twice, both times within a single week. And the second viewing I liked because I picked up on some stuff that I missed my first time seeing it, but I wasn't as scared or as freaked out. Not that the special effects and all that was bad, but just knowing that, oh yeah, there's a scary demon thing, but it's okay, he's going to heaven. Our movie begins with Jacob, our protagonist. He is called the Professor because he is college educated. He's in Vietnam with his company. They are just sitting around shooting the shit. They have some good back and forth, but then there's this call that there's movement in the tree line, so all the guys are getting ready, but some of the men in his company are freaking out. People are shaking violently. They're having these emotional bursts. Guys have just kind of sat down and are totally out of it. No one knows what's going on. Jacob's so confused. He ends up running into the jungle as there's artillery and gunfire. Guys are falling over, crying for help. They're just going completely nuts. There's this good image, which is, it's kind of gross, but this guy with a destroyed leg is trying to walk on it. Then Jacob is in the jungle and he is stabbed by a bayonet. We don't see who stabs him. He wakes up in a New York subway car immediately, and I didn't really know anything about Jacob's Ladder going in except that the Silent Hill games took inspiration from it, but I knew it was going to be like a psychological horror thing. But immediately we see two advertisements. One is for the Big Apple in New York, and one is about going to hell if you're doing drugs. The camera lingers on the hell imagery. So early on, I thought, okay, maybe he's dead, right? Just because the Big Apple also, there's a lot of biblical imagery, and I'll dive into that a little more. But Big Apple, Garden of Eden, being tempted by Satan, whatever, and then hell. There's an old lady on the subway who doesn't respond when he asks her what stations have they passed. There's this weird thing with this homeless guy. It's almost like a tentacle or appendage coming out of him. It really freaks Jacob out when he gets off the subway, but he makes it off the subway. He's in a platform, right? What is a platform? What does it actually symbolize? It's a place between two other places. You go to a platform to get on a train to go to a different platform. And Jacob he's literally locked here and he can't get out the usual way. The symbolism here is pretty thick. We are a place between two places. We are trapped here. I believe that he's trapped in purgatory right now, which that's what most people also say about this movie. So, and definitely agree with that. That makes the most sense. I don't believe it's just a PTSD episode being brought on by the ladder drug. I think it's definitely spiritual and supernatural. We also have some ads about ecstasy. I suppose this is to a little nod towards the ladder drug as well, because it brings you into a different state, and I guess you can have a bad trip with ecstasy. I've never done ecstasy. But he has to get down on the tracks and make his way to the other side to try to find another way out. He is almost hit by a subway coming towards him. There are some people trapped on the train. They're like banging on it. There's this really creepy guy in the back of the train who waves at him. I don't know if these people are supposed to be others in purgatory who, unlike Jacob, refused to move on. They wouldn't let go of their fear or their worldly possessions. So now they're trapped here and perhaps a little crazy and mentally unstable, but he's able to get out and go back to his house. He has a shower. We cut to Vietnam. While he's taking the shower, water is hitting his face, the memory of him in Vietnam. There's also rainfall, so there's a connection between the two. After this, he gets this box of memories brought to him by Jezebel. They're photographs from his past life. Jezebel is his new girlfriend, and one of his sons dropped off the photographs. Jezebel can't remember his son's name. I believe it was Jed or Eli who dropped them off. She says that she doesn't really like biblical names, but her own name is biblical as well. None of these names are accidental. They were all done with a purpose, and I do take them more or less at face value. I've seen some people online say that Jezebel is in the role of an angel, but I do believe that's off just based on her name and her actions, and opposed to a character that I believe most people interpret as good, like a guardian angel Louis. Discussing some of the biblical elements, we have Jacob's ladder, which itself refers to Genesis 28. This is about Jacob. He is dreaming of a ladder or a staircase reaching from earth to heaven. He sees angels ascending and descending it. God also speaks to Jacob and affirms his covenant with Jacob. So it's this divine promise, and there's protection, a connection between God and humanity. Jacob in the Bible is later given the name Israel. He also wrestles with God. Jacob is a fighter. We have some of the Vietnam doctors comment on that at the end, that Jacob really fought for it. Jezebel, Jacob's new girlfriend, the one he left his wife and children for, is the wife of King Ahab. She was known as a wicked woman who gets in the way of the exclusive worship of God, which I think seems to fit. I also interpreted her to be kind of a succubus, a seductress, if you will. I think she is more of a demon because of her behavior, and a decent portion of her in the movie is her being sexual, being a little seductive, and Jacob really likes that. And that's all well and good, but by doing that, she commands his attention, right? She is a very possessive woman, and she does get in the way at a few points of him being able to move on and let go of earthly possessions and his fear, which means that he's stuck down here in purgatory with her. I don't see how she isn't bad. It's not necessarily making Jacob worship her, but making Jacob focused on her. And also in the Bible, she got thrown out of a window and eaten by some wild dogs. I don't think she's named this for no reason. Jacob's ladder, of course, is very specific. Jezebel is a specific name. Gabriel, his dead son, played by Macaulay Culkin, he delivers messages from God to humanity. He's an archangel. He's a bridge between God and man, right? And of course, at the very end of the movie, Gabriel is the one who leads Jacob up into heaven, up the staircase. We have Jedediah, which Jed is short for. This is a name for Solomon when Solomon was a boy. He's known for wisdom. He built a temple. Eli was some judge and priest in the Bible. And Sarah, the ex-wife of Jacob, it was the wife of Abraham in the Bible. She was known for like faith, purity, patience. She was a pious woman. Sarah is good. Jacob refers to his sons as prophets. If all these names go along with how they are in the Bible, then why would Jezebel be any different? Is sort of my thorn in the side about, well, actually Jacob is interpreting her to be a demon, but she's actually an angel. No, I think she's actually a demon. Just her tone of voice and being upset when she sees a photo of Jacob and his ex-wife Sarah, she's kind of a bitch. Yeah, like, I don't know. Like, of course he's not going to completely forget about his old life with his family. Like, he built a whole life with this woman. So she's a little callous towards that. Another little thing with Jezebel, he asks, like, how did I end up with a woman like you? And she says, you sold your soul, remember? Calls Sarah a real bitch in the photo. She's undressing. She's seductive. This photo of Gabe makes Jacob cry. She doesn't like things that make him cry. She later steals the photos without his knowledge and burns them all. But this is not Jacob's choice. This is not his free will. I think she's destroying the photos not to get rid of his memories so that he can move on to purgatory, but so that he will forget about his past family, his past loves, and he will only focus on her and therefore remain in purgatory. So I don't see this as an angel unburdening him because it wasn't his choice to do so. After this, he goes to work for a little bit, but his back is killing him, so he goes off to Louis. Louis is great. He's played by Danny Aleo, and he's this great big Italian guy. Louis calls him a philosopher, but he doesn't know his left from his right, which seems accurate. Jacob can't figure out quite what's going on, where he actually is, and how to get out of here, even though there's all this stuff in front of him. Jacob went to school for 6 years for a PhD, and then he went to Nam. So even though he's very educated, I don't think he would have been necessarily drafted because he has a PhD. That means something, and typically I think they drafted more undereducated men, and I think he volunteered for it. This was because Gabe died and he couldn't deal with the guilt, so he just wanted to run away from all of that. What does Louis literally do for Jacob? He is using his hands to heal, and I don't really know my Bible. I'm not very religious, but Jesus, right, he had a healing touch. He could just put his hands on someone and take away their ailments, and it's an intimate act. I don't mean intimate in that way, but I mean he's putting his hands on him and he's curing him, right? It's a physical touch that does it. It's this very human, personal thing, and I'll make some comparisons when we get to the hospital scene later on, why that's a very different scene and how I don't think you can say both Louis and those people are all angels. That doesn't really work for me. Jacob has a little flashback of Nam, and then we see Louis, and there's this light behind him. It's like a halo. Jacob says he looks like an angel, like a big cherub, calls him a lifesaver. And I love that. I don't think that's cheesy or anything. I think that really works. After that, he's just walking home, and this crazy car shows up. This guy screams at him, "Look out." I didn't notice this in my first time watching, but it is, in fact, the doctor who created the ladder that tells him to look out. The car seems to be full of demon people. It's sort of like the train where you have like the shaking, disturbing face of a person, like their face isn't fully quite there. But he goes to the hospital. He's looking for Dr. Carlson. Dr. Carlson is his, I guess, psychiatrist, but the nurse says that he's not there. There's no record of Jacob Singer either. He knocks over a small vase or something, and the nurse bends down to get it, and on the top of her head, there's this creepy horn growing out of her head. He descends further into the hospital, and then he meets a guy who tells him that Dr. Carlson is in fact dead, says that his car blew up, which seems unbelievable. It was spontaneous combustion, really. It sort of seems like a trip to hell, right? That's kind of what it is. You're being engulfed in fire in this instant, and then whoosh, you're gone. He confides in Jezebel after this, and she's trying to gauge his fears. She asks, "You still love me?" She's dragging her nails down his back. Seems a little possessive by her asking, "Do you still love me?" She's kind of forcing this attachment, right? And if he has to shed all of his attachments to leave this place, to leave purgatory and go to heaven, then she wouldn't try to force love upon him, right? If she really was an angel.
You still love me?
Now, we get to the party. It's a lot of dancing. There's strobe lights, music. We have this animal head in the fridge. I don't know what animal that is. It sort of looks like a cow head, maybe. He gets his palm read by a woman on the steps, and she says that, according to his palm, that he is in fact already dead. I already kind of suspected this with like the Louis imagery and Louis being an angel and a lot of little things. So I'm like, okay, now we're really kind of confirming it. And it's not like supposed to be a twist ending, like, oh my God, Jacob was dead. It's like, yeah, it seems like he's dead. And the movie's not really trying to hide that or keep that away from the audience. And at the party scene with Jezebel, she does get him to dance for a little bit, but then he doesn't want to dance anymore. She's disappointed. Then she's kind of grinding on a guy, and a guy's thrusting on her. Like she's literally dancing with the devil and sort of having sex with this weird appendage tentacle thing, kind of like the homeless guy in the subway at the start. I don't know, boys. Are angels really getting down with the devil on the dance floor? I don't think so, but that's my interpretation. And the party is kind of demonic, and like it's sort of not quite an orgy, but there is a couple going at it on a couch. There's a demonic laugh. There's another shaking face demon. Jake ends up freaking out, and then later that night, they're back in their place. Jacob has a fever of 106. She rushes to save him by putting him in an ice bath, tells him to get out of bed, but he's unable to get out of bed without her. She has to be the one to assist him. And I'll make a comparison later on to a scene with Jacob and Louis. Jezebel and some of their neighbors on the floor, they force him into this ice-cold bath, and they hold him down while there's this soaring music. Jacob is crying out, "You're killing me." This is a subversion of baptism being dunking someone beneath water. It's a removal of sins, water being a symbol of life and healing. But this is killing him. He wakes up in bed. He ends up shutting a window while his wife, Sarah, complains about the air. But Jacob wants the world out. Says that it was a nightmare. He imagined himself with another woman, with Jezebel. His wife and him have a little back and forth. And she asks him, was it really a nightmare? And he's like, yes, it was terrible there. His dead son, Gabe, enters the room, and he wants his dad to tuck him in, so he goes to tuck Gabe into bed. Boy wants the door open, as his wife wanted the window open, but Jake wanted the door closed, like the window, but he does it for his son. And Jacob is very happy, and then cut back to Jake being with Jezebel again. His son is dead. The doctor here says, lucky guy, Jake, you must have friends in high places. And this shot in the tub with him looking up and some tears roll down his face, and he realizes that this is not a dream. What he just had with Sarah and Gabriel, that was the dream. And it's very sad. This is a great shot. Oh, and when he comes back into this world, one of the first things he sees is Jesse, and he cries. He misses his true family. He doesn't really want to be here, right? He talked about his time with Jesse as being a nightmare compared to being in bed with his wife, Sarah, and being with his children. And just how she talks about Sarah and how she says that when Jacob was in his fever, he was talking about Sarah and his children. and she's very uncaring in her tone. She's rather cruel. Jacob asks if he's dead, and she says no and just tells him to lie there. And by lying there, by not moving on, he's trapped in purgatory. He's studying books on like demons and such. Next, Jezebel wants him to get out and have a good time. He's ignoring her. He doesn't care about all this. He wants to remain trapped up in the apartment. We have this great image of Jezebel with demonic eyes.
Anybody in there? Anybody home?
So another thing with Jezebel, he has visions of her being demonic and being around demonic things. He never has a bad vision of Louis. He doesn't have a bad vision of Gabriel or of Sarah, of Jed, of Eli. He doesn't have bad visions of any of the vets, but he has these visions with Jezebel. Why is that? I think that's rather intentional as well. She leaves because he pushed her back. One of his army pals calls and they have a meetup. This is Pruitt Taylor Vince. I know him from a few movies. I think he's a good actor. He talks about demons being after him. He's scared. He can't go home. In the background, we have the doctor who made the ladder again. Pruitt Taylor Vince, he has a little Bible and like a rosary with him, but he says that they don't help. They don't do anything. But they just have a bit of a talk in the bar, and then they go outside, and he goes to turn his car on, and he also explodes. There was a coin on the ground, which flies away, and then the car explodes. I guess Pruitt Taylor Vince is also going to hell, and the doctor's car blew up, his car blew up. I believe this means that they're going to hell rather than heaven. Pruitt couldn't go home, right? And going home is something that's brought up a lot with Jacob. Am I home? Can I go home? And he's so afraid, and I guess his fear devours him. I don't know what the coin represents, really. I guess maybe America. Maybe this is stupid. I don't know. But it was a quarter, and on the back of the quarter, there was the bald eagle being face up. So it seemed like it represented America, maybe like the federal government or the army, perhaps. The doctor ends up pulling him away from the burning wreck. There's a funeral scene. Some of the other guys have visions of hell and of demons, so they decide to all go together and get a lawyer to investigate. And they just want to investigate the army because they all can't really remember, but they all think something really bad happened to them over in Vietnam. But the lawyer ends up dropping the case, and he calls his veteran buddies. They just say, hey, we dropped it, don't call again, and then they take the phone and put it off the hook. After their meeting with the lawyer, there was this car loitering outside, so I guess that was full of government agents, because he later goes to see the lawyer. The lawyer says he dropped the case because he contacted the army. The army says they were psychologically discharged. He gets grabbed by some government goons. He does fight them. And maybe this is a stretch, but it seems to go along with his namesake, fighting, wrestling with God. But he gets tossed out of the car, and then Santa Claus robs him when he's on the street. And he's very upset because he had his only photo of Gabriel in that wallet, so this has been stolen from him. He's asking for Louis. You gotta go get Louis, but the doctors aren't really listening to him. And then we have the hospital scene, which is one of the best scenes. He's being pushed on this gurney. We're going through some puddles. The hospital is dark. It's poorly lit up. There's a lot of trash. We see his son's bike. There's some light on it. There are inmates just around. One guy's banging his head against the glass repeatedly, and it's bleeding. There's a caged ceiling. There's people crawling on it. There's the shaking face monster again. And we get to this little surgery room, which is very crowded and packed full of people. Jacob is strapped in. He cannot move. We're surrounded. Jesse is there. He wants to go home. He's told, this is your home. They ask why he's here. There's this eyeless doctor, which looks so cool and creepy.
This is your home. You're dead. There is no out of here. You've been killed. Don't you remember?
But this little surgery amphitheater, it has the sterile fluorescent lighting. It's grim and it's ugly. And just compare this place of healing, quote unquote, to Louis' office. We do have this running motif of like hospitals and doctors and nurses being bad and demonic, while more of a traditional and I guess wholesome, intimate medicine actually provides true healing. There's something with that. Oh, and Louis uses his hands to heal him, right, through his touch. But the doctors hook him up to these impersonal cold machines after the surgery and after he gets stabbed in the head with the giant needle. These machines are uncaring. And then what's next? His family comes to visit. He says that he's not dead. There is this voice that says, "Dream on." I guess maybe this is maybe God or an angel, like saying that, no, you are in fact dead, and perhaps not to dream on, or trying to like make him realize that he's dead and where he is and what he has to do to get out of here. Louis then bursts in. He's calling the doctors barbaric. What have they done to him? I don't think the doctors or Jezebel can be considered angels because of this. They don't really heal him. He's strapped in. His leg is hoisted up into the air. He's going to be stuck in this bed for a month, his son says. Louis, he's swinging at the docks. He gets Jacob into a wheelchair, and he gets him the hell out of there. And I don't consider this a inversion of free will for Jacob. Louis cannot make this journey or these choices for Jacob. He can't force Jacob to let go of his memories, but he's there to offer him advice. He's there to help, and he's there to fight off demons for Jacob when Jacob really needs it. Jacob still has to do all this on his own, but he's there for him. There's a higher power that is looking out for him. And what does Louis do? These doctors said it was going to take a month to heal him, and he wasn't going to be able to move or anything during that time. Louis fixes him in like an hour or so by just doing his usual routine. He gets Jacob to walk, and more specific, he gets Jacob to walk on his own. He is able to do it on his own power, of his own choice. And if Louis is good, why exactly is he opposed to the actions Jezebel and the doctors took if they're all angels? And Louis spells it out here that, well, according to this one philosopher, if you're in hell and you're holding on to your fears and your memories, then it can make angels appear like demons, but I still feel like those are actual literal demons, and Louis is a good force. And if they were on the same side, why is Louis undoing all of the healing that Jezebel and the doctors performed? He's creating distance between Jacob and those angels, quote unquote, at the hospital. Louis gets him to walk on his own. They had him strapped down, unable to move. And their healing is just to have him stay and potentially lose himself and go mad like maybe some of the shaking face demons and some of the other kind of crazy people in purgatory, right? Like in the hospital, those are people that have maybe just stayed too long. While Louis' healing is for him to move around here in this world, but it's also to give him philosophical advice and nudge him to leave, but ultimately it's Jacob's choice. He has to do this on his own. It's very different healing. Whereas with Jezebel and her healing, quote unquote, getting him to the ice bath, he cannot make that journey on his own. She has to carry him to the ice bath. I don't know necessarily what would have happened to Jacob if he hadn't been put in the ice bath. Would he have just expired? Would he have gone to hell in that moment? Maybe nothing would have happened because he hadn't really made a choice. Then if he was going to let go of his fears and his memories and his guilt and be able to go to heaven or hold on to them and descend into hell, I'm not sure. Then Jacob is back in his apartment. He has his box of memories. He's thinking about when he was out with Gabe, and Gabe had his bike. Gabe ended up dropping some cards in the street, and he got hit by a truck. And the film doesn't really get into it, but I believe they're saying that Jacob wasn't paying very close attention, and maybe if he had called out to Gabe or something, then he wouldn't have died. And the guilt over this and not saving his son is why he ultimately ran off to Vietnam to try to die over there, like he was trying to get killed, but to at least put distance between himself and these memories and his guilt. And he just can't let go of it. There's a call now from the doctor about the weird secret experiments in Vietnam. He goes to meet with this doctor. I think this is fine, but it is kind of a really big exposition dump. I don't love it, but I think it's okay. And he talks about creating the ladder, which was this drug which was supposed to make it so you'd be able to kill the enemy. The army was doing this secretly because they knew morale was low and there's going to be some big offensive or something. I don't know if I buy the army doing this. Maybe they did. The U.S. government does do some evil shit every now and then, so I'm willing to entertain it. The naming of the drug is not very subtle. It is called the ladder, which is fine. It's fine. And of course, this is taking place in an alleyway. We are speaking between two buildings. We're in purgatory. We're in between heaven and hell. Jacob then asks a cabbie to take him home. He keeps trying to go there. And when we do get there, it's this very nice building. It looks pretty expensive. The doorman calls him Dr. Singer. He goes up to his apartment that he had with his wife and children. There's some half-eaten food on the table. It looks like things were interrupted, like frozen, like memory, this piece of time. Maybe this is like his last memory of being home, and that's what he's recalling here. And he just has a sit down on the couch, and there's this montage of memories of him and his family. We have this heartbeat, thump, thump, thump. This morning light comes in. And we see Gabe on the stairs being a ladder. Gabriel greets him with, "Hi, Dad." The son takes the role of the father here, and he holds Jacob as Jacob embraces him. And then he says, "Let's go up." And he leads him up, and we fade to white. We cut to Jacob being dead in Vietnam. We started and ended this movie in Vietnam, and there's this song Sunny Boy playing, which I think has some lyrics about gray skies are going to clear up, they're going to look blue, and we have a little text at the end about potentially this drug actually being used. I don't know if I quite buy that. I would like to see some more evidence. Does all this being a dream really matter? No, not at all. It's a film about Jake's demons and his spiritual journey. It is very real to Jacob, and that's what matters here. This is not like other films that go, "Oh, it was all a dream," as a cop-out so that nothing advances in their physical world, and there's a very much a cheapness to that. It's always worse when it's a dream in works like that, because then we're thrust back into the real world. But we're not really thrust back into the real world here. It's all a spiritual, supernatural story, and that's all fine. And Gabe just saying, "Hi, Dad," and greeting him on the steps is fantastic. It's so good. It's so wholesome. Jacob has been through such horrible terrors and he's felt such tremendous guilt, but it's all okay in the end. He's going to go to heaven, right? I think it's a lot more wholesome, and not that I've seen a lot of horror movies, but the ending says that, oh, heaven's real. By the way, you'll get to be with your dead son in heaven. There is a higher power. It's a benevolent force that cares about you and wants you to be happy and to move on and to not feel, to let go of your guilt and to be able to move on. That's incredibly wholesome. It's very reassuring and optimistic. I think if you are religious, you will get a little more out of this movie than someone who's not really religious, but I still really enjoyed it. Oh, I also wanted to talk about the deleted scenes for the movie. I will have a link to this down below, and these are okay, but I can really see why they were cut. I think maybe if you had a director's version of the film and you included these, that wouldn't be a bad thing to have them, but I understand why they were cut. The first deleted scene is about the doctor saying he can get rid of the demons for Jacob. He blames the government for killing Paul, Pruitt Taylor Vince, with the car explosion. He gives Jacob this antidote in the seedy motel. Jacob is having these horrible visions and he's shaking and writhing. This monster breaks through the ceiling. After this, the doctor says that he's cured, but he's not. He goes to the train station to get a ticket to Chicago to get away from this all, but he goes in the bathroom first. I think he believes he sees some government agents outside. While he's in the bathroom, he goes into a stall and a note is passed to him from the stall next to him. But when he opens the stall next to him, there's no one there. There's also a guy washing his feet in the sink when he arrived, and then the sink is filled with blood when he's leaving. There's also a scene with him going back to the apartment, and Jesse is there, and she turns into a demon, just freaks him out. But then she reveals another face, and it's his face. She was an invention. All of this is in his head. But I still feel like, yeah, she's demonic. And those are the deleted scenes I saw. I don't know if there were more, but it was like a 13-minute long video on YouTube. So check it out if you're interested in those. But I think the Jesse one for sure is a bit too much. And the antidote and everything, I think that removes Jacob's agency and like him fighting the demons himself, him letting go of his own guilt and wrestling with it. Instead, it's just, here's this antidote. Yes, the antidote doesn't work, but I think that's a bit of a cheapness to it. But I really enjoy Jacob's Ladder. Very, very nice, wholesome ending. And the creepy stuff was still creepy and good. But that was an incredibly positive ending to such a terrible, disturbing journey. So hopefully people saw it before they watched this. Anyways, now I am just going to do a quick, bullet point summary of some other films I saw lately, which I did not care for. So there are full spoilers for all these. Keep that in mind. Farewell, my lovely. This is a Philip Marlowe story. It was an adaptation. It has Robert Mitchum in here, who I do like as an actor. I really loved him in The Friends of Eddie Coyle. That's a high recommendation. But it was a pretty basic mystery that had too many side characters. It was just kind of okay. I looked up the original story online, just a summary of it. And it seems like the director and the writers took some changes to the script. The book also sounds like it was written kind of poorly. Like there's a little what? Plot-wise and characters and how convenient some things are. It just seems not very well done. But there's some socio-political stuff that I don't think was in the book. Like he gives a lot of money at the end to this black woman and her race-mixed kid. I think that was added, but whatever. It was just kind of a mess and overall not good. Reign of Fire, this has Christian Bale and I think Jude Law, whatever. Essentially, dragons are real and it's modern times and they come out of the ground and they start just killing everyone. Yeah, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but there's people hiding all over in the world and they're just trying to be quiet and wait the dragons out. But we have Matthew McConaughey, who's this crazy American who shows up with an army from America to the UK. They have a helicopter, and they only do one scene with this, but to fight dragons, they have people that have nets, and they jump out of these helicopters to try to wrap it around the dragons, and then people on the ground shoot the dragons, and the dragons can't fly or fight back. This was fucking retarded. Also, Christian Bale as a boy got spit in the eyes by a dragon. I didn't know if this would come up later. It did not, but it felt strangely deliberate. Like, why is this here? Because it doesn't come up later again. Matthew McConaughey then takes a convoy of people to London because they're trying to kill the one male dragon. Because of all the dragons that they've killed, apparently they're all female, so that they think that dragons are like fish and there's one male and he's just going to fertilize all the eggs. So if they kill the one male, then I guess they win. It's over. But there's a dragon flying, and he's spitting flames, and he's coming at Matthew McConaughey, and Matthew McConaughey is using a pump-action shotgun on the dragon. It is the most retarded thing in the world. That dragon is nowhere near close to where your pellets are going to hit it. That was so fucking dumb. And their entire convoy is destroyed here. And their convoy was destroyed because the highway was blocked by a bunch of wrecked cars and everything. It's just very pathetic and bizarre. There was no scouting whatsoever, no idea what the path ahead looked like for the convoy. Again, these are apparently trained veterans that have survived multiple engagements with dragons. You would think that you would have scouts making sure your path is clear for everybody. I know it's a bad film, but still. And the dragon just doesn't destroy their convoy. It also goes on to the castle of Christian Bale and kills most of them. I don't know how or why the dragon knows to go there. These trucks have driven hours away from the castle. Matthew McConaughey and the survivors come back to the castle. Christian Bale somehow knows that the dragon that spit on him when he was a boy was a male dragon. I don't know how he knows that. Also, why this male dragon wouldn't have been fertilizing eggs this entire time. If you did a modern remake of Reign of Fire, you could probably convince this one singular male dragon to transition and castrate himself. Just show the dragon lots of anime. I like it. It could work. But Matthew McConaughey, Christian Bale, and the woman, they go to London, and they're just going to kill it. There's this scene with Matthew McConaughey jumping off a roof with this battle axe, and he's swinging at the dragon. It's stupid, but kind of cool as well. Christian Bale blows up the dragon, and that's it. The dragon spitting in his eyes when he was a boy literally didn't matter. It's also just a huge assumption that there are no other male dragons left on the planet. Like, of all the dragons, there's one singular dragon, and all the other dragons just die, I guess. Oh, and that one British guy from the RAF who was in the castle who said that we're going to burn the dragons hotter than the fires of Dresden burned. That was super weird, but oh well. The Cherry Orchard. This was originally a Russian play that got adapted into a movie. It is stuffed to the brim with English actors. I think it's Jude Law from Reign of Fire is also in this. There are also a lot of familiar faces. We have a Russian noble house that has fallen on hard financial times. They have this beautiful manor and their cherry orchard, which they're famous for, but they have no money, and they're actually going to have to sell everything in a few months unless they come up with money. So they have a few schemes, like marrying one of their daughters to a rich guy, getting inheritance from their one estranged relative and such, but no, those schemes actually pan out, and the rising nobility guy who was born a peasant ends up buying the house. And we end with Russian peasants cutting down the cherry orchard, which is driving the lady of the house mad because she loved the orchard and her son died when playing with it, so it's this memory that she has. I didn't really like it. It felt rather left-wing. This was actually written by Chekhov, Chekhov's gun, but I did a little more research about it. Apparently Chekhov wrote a lot, but he also wrote one thing called Rothschild's Fiddle, which is talking about anti-Semitism being bad. There was a point in the play when they're throwing one last big hurrah party at the manor, and they make sure to invite this Jewish orchestra to play for them. No, I just don't like uppity peasants. There was also a scholar character who was very poor, and he was based in a free, above it all spirit. Surely not a self-insert for the author. And it's just kind of hard to love the poor because we're cutting down all these cherry trees. We're making this place so ugly so they can try building some summer village cottages, rent them out to rich people. Maybe the rich guys aren't very good with money, but they do have a certain class and dignity that you can't buy with money. And we end with this camera panning around this empty mansion as the sounds of axe striking, cutting down trees fall in the background. Didn't care for it. Babylon AD. This is a Vin Diesel film. We're in the future. It seems to be a shithole. Surprise, surprise. He is to transport this girl to New York. We don't know exactly what her deal is, and he's just this mercenary bunny hunter guy. She is a super vessel that is a part of a power feud between this fake religious cult, which is being built by this super business conglomerate because they want to create miracles and, just rule people through that. And there's also the guy who created her that knows a lot about cloning and such, and he doesn't want her to be this thing. I like some of the tech design and everything, but I don't care for it overall. It just feels very derivative. The gruff guy taking this girl, and he doesn't give a shit about her, but then actually he cares about her, which is fine. Some plots fall into a few different categories, and it can work well, but this just felt a little too paint by the numbers, a little, too derivative. So it was just kind of a meh little sci-fi film. And the last one, the one I actually recommend people check out, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to do a full video on it. This is Wholesome, Price of Death. This is very, very odd. This was just randomly recommended to me on YouTube, and I'm really glad that it was. This is a Russian claymation film made by two people. I think it's father and son or brother and brother, but literally just two guys. And the movie is set in this fantasy coliseum that has a bunch of rounds filled with fighting monsters and other creatures, and every time they win a fight, it brings them closer to their goal. And the goal of winning this place and defeating all the rounds is you get your wish granted. It's sort of like Roadside Picnic in that way, like weird Russian philosophy, Roadside Picnic, but it's also fantastical. Is there rough sound effects, rough dialogue? The subtitles are a little off at times. Overall, I would describe the film as kind of rough. But there's heart here, there's passion, there's creativity. There's definitely something here. I will have it linked down below. Again, it's free on YouTube. Accidentally, I had left it running in the background. I didn't realize it was running, and it was like 40 minutes in by the time I paused it. Then hours later, I'm like, do I really want to watch this thing? So I didn't rewind it, but I just clicked play from 40 minutes in. There was like an hour left. Fucking fell in love with it, and then I went back and watched it from start to 40 minutes. Fantastic. The fights are really cool. The characters are mostly basic, right? They all fulfill a role, and they're all functional. They all work fine. There's some like funny dialogue between them, but it's genuinely impressive what they're able to do with just this stop motion claymation stuff. It was like, wow, this is pretty cool stuff. The second half, I think, is better than the first. The first is a little more rough, and in the second, there are a lot of oh shit, oh fuck moments in the second half that genuinely surprised me. If that sounds remotely interesting, then I would say check it out. I was debating putting some clips in here or posting them on X, but I don't really want to spoil it. But I might put up some like very cool moments on X with like a spoiler tag or whatever. Wholesome, Price of Death. Good stuff. Other films I briefly talked about, not good stuff. So a week after this video, I should have another video covering the Pusher trilogy, which are a series of films that came out in the 90s and early 2000s. But we are set in Copenhagen. We are following around petty drug dealers and criminals. And I think it's so good. It's brutal. It's honest. It's very gritty. I know those were generic sounding words, but I will link to it. But you can watch these movies for free on Tubi TV, which is also free. And I thought they were excellent. If you want like a cool, I guess, criminal drama movies, they're great. And the first one's excellent. The second one also excellent. The third one still very good. I think it's maybe a little weaker than the first two, but I still think like these hold up pretty well for a trilogy. It's not like a huge dropping off point. They're all worth seeing. And yes, highly, highly recommend these. But this will come out a week after Jacob's Ladder. That's going to be it for me. If you have any film suggestions or whatever, or any thoughts on Jacob's Ladder, something I missed, you can comment down below. But thank you for watching. White Pill Media out.